and they call me Cookie. And I was my father's secretary. I was his girl Friday. My responsibilities were to type out the contracts, fill out the medical reports for the rasters, and see that everything ran smoothly in the office during a performance or at that time of a wrestling show.
What was the biggest challenge for you being a part of all this?
That I had to act very professionally, and I had to be very serious at all times and very responsible. It was my dad's expectations of me. And where there was a great deal of showmanship, I was supposed to have a great deal of maturity and professionalism.
What what can you tell us? Can you introduce yourself and tell us like what exactly you did in the family, like what your jobs were and what it was like being a kid?
My name's Eddie Guerrero, and I'm the fifth out of 6 children. And my job was when my sister retired, I became my dad's secretary, but I was never in charge of the contracts. I was more in charge of helping my mother with the concessions, helping my little brother make sure the contracts were signed, and making sure that the contracts, as he brought them to me, were signed, and I turned them up to my dad. When we would take the shows on the road, I was in charge of selling tickets, counting out the money at the end of the night, and helping my dad drive home the ring or whatever when we were in California. That's I would help him drive sometimes.
When you were young, like what was it like seeing your older brothers in the ring?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I'd never trade my life for $1 million. I think it's the best childhood. I've said it before. It's we were raised with a wrestling ring in our backyard. Other kids have a playground or trampoline. We had a wrestling ring, and that was our playground. Our life was eat, drink, sleep, wrestling. We talked about wrestling. It was a family business. My dad always included all of us in, even when we were too young. Like my job when I was really young was to make sure that when we had like our shows that the guys that would help my dad were well hydrated, and if they were doing okay, I was kind of like a gopher, make sure everybody was doing okay, and then I'd come and report to my dad.
What that would be a good question. Well, how about this one? I remember Mono, I sat down and talked to Mono a few times about what it was like when Eddie was a child, in the front row, and like the people were like tossing beers around and popcorn. Eddie was in their hands being tossed around like front row, like it was like insane by the way it sounded, like a little baby. Like what was your memories of that? Do you remember seeing something like that?
No, but I do remember Eddie. He was always, everybody, all 4 of them were always on the ring wrestling. Eddie, from the time he was in diapers, was wrestling. My dad had a production or a thing where he had it was called El Santo Milk, and my dad promoted it, and my brother's picture was on this carton of milk that was, in the superstore, in the supermarkets, and people would go grab the milk, and there was a picture of Eddie in a diaper. That's. I don't remember a lot of what you said, what my brother said, but I do remember that Eddie, he was always playing in the ring. He was always doing production shows for us, and we'd come and see the show, and him and my nephew would put on wrestling shows, and during intermission, nobody would leave because everybody wanted to see them wrestle. So,
Well, you said something interesting that caught me. It totally hit me, and then it went out of my mind. Okay, how about this one? Like when I was a young kid, I had like 5 years on my sister. I'll ask both of you this. All right, like you both. When I was a young kid, I used to watch wrestling. I'd put my sister in all the moves and try on her moves. I would be like 10, she'd be 5, totally wrong, but like put her in a Boston crab and stuff like that. Like, did your brothers ever do that to you, or is there a family rule? Like,
No, there was a family rule with her, not with me.
or what was the family rule with you?
They were to respect me at all times, and I was a woman, I was a female, and my father never wanted us to go to the gym with him. As women, we were supposed to stay home and be feminine, play the piano, help my mother in the kitchen, and help him out in the office.
And then I came.
What happened with you?
I turned everything around because I wanted to be like the guys. Because she's the oldest and I'm in the middle. Or should I say the youngest daughter, and I'm right above Eddie. So we were the two youngest, and we were like a second family for my parents. But I always wanted to be like the boys. So my brothers would come home from high school, and when they were in the wrestling, and they'd put on a hold, and they'd grab me because I was very flexible. See, like this, and I'd be, they'd have an arm in here. Or I always asked my dad if I could wrestle, and he'd tell me no because the girls it's not for women. And then one thing he did do, and I guess you could say my dad kind of started the Nitro Girls. I was an aerobic instructor, and he'd have me go on and put aerobic demonstrations on the ring. And I'd get two of my girlfriends, and the three of us would put aerobic demonstrations. So that's kind of how my dad kind of started that stepping stone there for that.
Let me ask you another question. Okay, so you're the oldest sister of the group?
Yes, I am. I'm the oldest.
Like in your opinion, like looking down, like you saw everybody grow up other than your own parents. Like what memories do you have the most?
As Linda has already mentioned to you, that the household was a loving, good, God-abiding household, that it was basically wrestling at all times. We ate, played, dreamed, and worked wrestling because my father was a fanatic and totally dedicated to his profession. And we'd sit at the dinner table, and that's all we would do, talk about wrestling. And then my father would train my brothers in the living room, and we traveled. And of course, as a wrestler, my father would go from territory to territory, and we would go with him. And wrestling was just very much part of our life.
I remember seeing the documentary that WWE produced, like Eddie used to wrestle off a monkey.
Right.
Like, can you tell us that story? Like, what was that like?
It's hilarious. I mean, Eddie had a little cheetah. He used to play Tarzan. And my cousin came into town, and he had his cheetah. And they would put on the wrestling matches, and my cousin would be the monkey. And my brother would be the referee, and they'd be, they'd come out, and Eddie was come out with his towel on his neck because that was his cape, and they'd announce. I was in the crowd, I was the fan, and Eddie would always, back then, it was 2 out of 3 falls. Remember when the 2 would be the winner, and Eddie won the first time, and then the second time the monkey won, and then the third time it was, Eddie was going to win because it was for the championship belt. Well, my cousin turned it on and the monkey won, and we paraded the monkey around the house because he was the champion, and Eddie got mad and ripped him apart. So that was the end of Cheetah.
Yeah.
Did they tell that story on the WWE DVD?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they did? Okay, I just remember.
Mondo told it.
Mondo told it.
Because I remember the story, but I didn't remember the ending. I didn't remember that part. I know Mondo has video of it. It'll be cool to see that. What else should I ask you about? Tell me about your brothers, Chavo, Mondo, and Hector. What was it like with them? Like, what are their personalities like? Because I've only known Mondo and Chavo. Chavo's seems like the wild boy of the family, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mondo.
No, well, Mondo was, but he's Chavo's taken over.
With age, you get a little crazy.
Yeah, but let's see, Chavo's taken over. Mondo's the jokester of the family. He can make you laugh at a drop of a hat. Chavo's the same thing. Chavo can tell you one joke after another, just keep you laughing. they're all very loving. All my brothers are very loving. And Hector is more of the philosophical brother, but he's also got his crazy side. So they've all, I mean, and they're all there at a drop of a hat. They're all there. Something happens to you, they're all there. My sister, she's got her crazy side too, but
I admit it.
And Eddie was the hot-tempered one, but he also had a heart of gold, and he could also make you laugh. But he was the hot-tempered one, and he could. I mean, my son has the same personality, and I guess you could say he. Don't get him mad. I remember one story that Eddie and he got me. I guess I got him really mad, and he was making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and he had a butter knife, and he threw the knife at me because I guess I got on his nerves. And I ran to my bedroom, and when my dad got home, I embellished the story and said, Eddie threw a knife at me. And my dad,
Let's show the Guerrero family fighting.
Well, Bryson is.
Oh, Bryson is. Hey, sweetie. You can't be in here right now, alright? Sorry. It's okay. Tell Bryson that Bryson is Guerrero.
Is there anything?
No, but one thing you can get on tape is I was my brother's personal secretaries from Chavo, Mondo, Hector, even Eddie. Girls would call from, ask, is Eddie there? They get our phone number, or Hector, and I'd hang up because I'd get so tired because they'd call like all different girls all the time. Then my dad, I guess my dad noticed I was really getting tired. My dad did too, and I'd start answering, this is his girlfriend, what do you want? So that's how I got back with him. But right, the girls would call all the time. All the time.
So they have a lot of girlfriends. Just because they're all popular wrestlers, right?
Well, they weren't girlfriends. There was just girls wanting to meet my brothers.
Oh, okay. So this is a celebrity thing, or yeah, okay.
And my dad, our phone was listed, so.
Oh wow, so that's a mistake right there.
Well, my dad had it that way because we were a business. So.
Yeah, I understand.
I would like to add something. My brother started wrestling at home in the living room with my dad. He started training them, as I said before, in the living room and the gym. And they went on to compete in high school in Olympic wrestling, and some even went on to compete in college wrestling. Most of them did. And they have contributed a great deal to the wrestling world. They have contributed their style, their athleticism. They're good wrestlers. They're good performers. They're good showmen, and I'm very proud of them.
They each got their own style.
Right.
And when you say the wrestling Guerreros, we even though we're not wrestlers, we're in the background. But my brothers all have their own style. They all, when you talk about wrestling, that's where you get wrestling. I mean, Chavo started a new era, Mondo, Hector, then came Eddie, and now, I mean, unfortunately Eddie's gone now, but he left a big legacy and big shoes to fill, and that's what all my brothers have done.
What, like, a lot of the fans, and I know it's sensitive, I know it is, but I want to ask, because I think it's important because a lot of fans are curious. I know like some of the family probably supported it, some probably were against it, the way they would continue a storyline using Eddie's name and the way they did it. Did that bother you at all, or what was your opinion?
From the way we were raised at the beginning of how wrestling used to be, it did bother us because back then, I mean, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't put a brother against a nephew so when they would use Eddie in those kind of storylines, it really did bother me. And towards the end, some of his storylines, but I knew he knew what he was doing, and so we just let him. I've never ever talk to my brothers, or tell them what they need to do or what not to do, and we've always supported them. I've always supported them, stood behind them because they know what they're doing, and like Cookie said, I'm very proud of them as well. Very proud of my mom and dad. Grateful to be from a great family.
What about your opinion? Was there anything that bothered you the way WWE handled it, or?
WWE.
Yeah.
I think that I would have to agree with Linda. I was bothered by the feud that developed between Chavito, my nephew, who's also a good wrestler. I should add, I'm very proud of him too. And Eddie. I did not like it. I did not like to see it, and I didn't like to see Chavo in the ring also fighting or wrestling against Eddie. It bothered me very much, but I certainly can't. As I said, I worked as a secretary, not as a promoter.
So you called them?
Excuse
Is that
me?
what you called? Oh, I thought you said you asked the secretary.
No,
No,
she
he-
works.
as a secretary,
Oh,
not
okay.
as a promoter.
Oh, okay, okay. And then what else? Oh yeah, if like let's say that Eddie was here, like what do you think he would say to the fans, or if he could say something, what would he say?
Thank you.
He was very noble.
He was very humble, very noble, very loving. He had a heart of gold.
Right.
When my brother gave you his hand or shook your hand or give you, or hugged you, you knew it was sincere. He was a very sincere person, and I know if he were here today, he'd thank everybody. Thank his fans. I really do think he would, and he was. I don't know what to say. He's gone, and it's a big loss in our family. We all still can't function without him, and I don't think we'll ever learn to. And I know you must go on, but it's very hard for us, all of us.
Is there any other questions you guys can think of? Nothing. I'm trying to think of something. Okay, what's this? Where do you guys see the future of the Guerrero family going? Like, we have little kids out here, horse playing, looks like they're throwing punches already at the age of 5. What do you think's gonna happen?
I think the legacy's going to live on. We've got Chavo Jr.'s children. We've got Mondo's grandson. We've got my son, but he won't do wrestling because he said it's too much Guerrero pressure. Plus, a lot of people tell me he looks a lot like his uncle. So his thing is soccer, though, but he's also fanatic. Our whole family, once you get into something, you become it's in our blood. You become a fanatic of what you're doing. In our family, it's wrestling.
How old is your son?
He's 14.
So he has plenty of time to still think about wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Soccer, I don't know, unless you live in Europe, it's going to be hard to make a living, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
But the good thing is my brothers support him.
yeah.
They don't talk back or any. Eddie, I'm not going to kid you. Eddie was at back in September, right before he passed, September and October. He came down when he was getting ready to move to Phoenix, and Phoenix is hot, and he's out there in his cowboy boots, his jeans, and his nice shirt, looking at my son play soccer at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and supporting my son out there in 100-degree weather, 110-degree weather. That's, my whole family's like that. It didn't, Eddie knew that if he were out there, people would recognize him, and he went low-key, went out there and supported my son. I thought that was awesome. He didn't have any summer clothes to wear because he was in town, but he's out there with his cowboy boots. I'll never forget that. Cowboy boots, jeans, and his t-shirt, or a nice shirt, 100-degree weather out there.
Could you tell me one more memory you have as a kid of maybe any of your brothers or something that you remember that's a funny story?
Eddie, I was doing a paper. I was attending UTEP at that time, the University of Texas at El Paso. And I had to write a paper on bilingualism. And I needed an informer. And that means a person to translate for you and into another language. And I chose Eddie, and he was a young child at that time. He was wrestling, playing baseball, and just an active little boy. And at the end of our interview, I asked him, Eddie, do you have a song that you know? And he says, yes, Mary Had a Little Lamb, She took him to school, and tied him to the heater, and every time he turned around, he burned his little cedar. I remember that. I got an A.
Yeah, my brothers put this on camera. My brother Hector taught me to jump off the roof of my house.
Oh, we were just very fun-loving family.
We were. It was a lot of fun.
I forgot to really ask about your father. Like, what was it like? Like, he was like one of the most respected legends in all of the wrestling industry. What is can you tell me about him? Like a memory you have?
My dad, to me, I mean, Eddie and I had him as a second family, and my brothers always say that he was a lot more softer with Eddie and I. He was very strict, but I just remember I was always with my dad, and I know that he was just a very soft. Everybody thought of him as I don't know, maybe he came across as a mean person, but to us he was a very soft man. To Eddie and I mean, loving, laughing with him all the time. We were always with him, the four of us, I guess, towards the end. We moved to California, and it was the four of us, and he was just very warm man, loving, oh man, funny. He would be very funny, very great with his grandkids, and just a very family-oriented man. From his immediate family, his children, to his sisters and brothers as well.
How about you?
Passionate for wrestling. Passionate. His life, his everything, but also very family-orientated man. Very jealous and possessive of his family, and family traditions, family togetherness.
I noticed the family seems very religious. Like, did that start at like birth? Was that just the way it was, or did that develop over time?
No, with my father and his sisters, my aunts. I don't know if you met them tonight. And it started with them and their father, and it continued. And my father always insisted that we go to church on Sundays, and that we say our prayers when we sat down for our dinner table meal. And he very much insisted on church. And we didn't have any other social activity other than wrestling that it wasn't church.
Well, I did, but he still instilled. I mean, towards my time, I was able to go into cheer and dance and stuff. But my dad, we had Sundays were always reserved for church. My mom didn't cook on Sundays because that was her day off, and he always took us out to dinner or lunch right after, and then after that we'd go work at the wrestling in Juarez, Mexico. And then Mondays was wrestling, and that was another work, and then start again to get ready for the week, and start Saturdays for wrestling or TV, and Sunday again wrestling, and then Monday, and it was just constant, and it was our way of life.
Was it very profitable?
Yes, it was. And I know, like, on Tuesdays my dad would give me the rest of the programs, and I'd sell them after school to the kids. You know, we'd come and I'd sell them for a dime. Or
So you guys were all celebrities in your town at that time. Even you at school, you were like, all the kids were hitting you up like, let me meet your brother, let me buy this, let me get front row. So you guys lived the life as kids. You didn't have to worry.
We did have that celebrity. It wasn't it didn't come to extremes, but we did have that celebrity.
Was there any ever times, sorry for asking more questions, I have to ask this one, I know a lot of people challenge wrestlers. Was there ever like some tough guys in the city that always wanted to box your brothers or fight them?
Oh yeah.
Well, tell me some stories of that, and maybe something that the brothers did to these guys.
Well, I know that I'd always get that wrestling is fake.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. My brothers are an example of that. My brother Mondo had bad knees. My brother Hector had bad hips. My brother Chavo, Eddie, God forbid, wrestling basically took his life. He gave his life to wrestling. And I remember when people, to this day, people will ask me if it's fake, and I really get hot about it. That was a big thing. We also, I mean, I know that my brothers would get picked on. They wouldn't bring it so much at home because they didn't want to upset my dad. I know that was one of my brother. I think Eddie would tell me that, and Hector would tell me that. I got people that would want to beat me up or want to fight me, but I always talked my way out of it because I knew it wasn't the Christian thing to do. But I mean, it was fun, but at the same time, it was tough. It was, I guess, basically, I mean, that was the childhood we had, and I mean, I really wouldn't know anything different. But I will tell you that we will protect and live. I mean, we are wrestling. We will live wrestling. We will protect wrestling, and I think our family is wrestling. Period. I'm sorry, but I'm real adamant. I'm very proud of my family. My brothers, very proud of all four of them. My dad.
If you could do things differently, would you be a professional wrestler?
No.
No.
Because my dad didn't want it.
I guess that's
Okay,
All right.
Guerrero's number one. I didn't know she had a post-it, really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was her.
All right. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was her.